Let's talk about heat maps and vector fields in gnuplot. At the end of this video, you'll be able to produce plots that look like this. This is the electrostatic potential and electric field of some capacitor plotted on top of each other in the same diagram. On the one hand, we have a scalar field, the electric potential, that maps to each point in the xy plane some scalar value and colors that point in according to that value, as you can see on the right here. And on top of that, I've drawn the electric field, which is a vector field, which means that at each point we have a little arrow that has some magnitude and some direction. The dataset for this plot was produced with this little Python program that I just threw together quick and dirty, but it gets the job done and you can stop here and take a look at it. The important thing though is the data file that was produced by this program. And if we take a look at that data file, you see that it contains 3 or 5 columns per entry. When I say columns, I mean numbers separated by some sort of white space. So a single blank character between the numbers is enough so that gnuplot recognizes them as separate columns. Now, what are the columns? So the first column is the x-coordinate of our image, the second column is the y-coordinate, and the third column just contains the electric potential. So this is our scalar field that we're going to plot in the heat map. If we go down a little, you can see these data points contain 5 entries because after the scalar field, after the potential, I also included 2 additional entries which correspond to the x and y component of the vector field. Now, as you see, not every data point needs to include vector components. Gnuplot will just draw vectors where there are data entries for the vector components and leave them out at these other data points. Now, I want to bring your attention to something extremely important. You can see that this block of data right here is basically the first column of our image. It's all the pixels with coordinates x equals 0. And after this first block, I put a blank line. And this blank line is incredibly important. You will get an error message if you leave it out. You could argue that gnuplot should know that this is the next row of the image because all the x coordinates are 1 and previously they were 0. But that doesn't matter. You really have to put that blank line in. Now let's open up gnuplot and take a look at how to produce these plots. So the first thing I want to plot is the electric potential, is the heat map. So let me just type the plot command, then my data file, then I can type using 1, 2, 3, but that shouldn't be necessary since that's the default option for such a plot anyway. And then I need to write with image. And this produces this kind of plot. So what we did is at each coordinate in the data file, we placed a pixel and we colored that pixel in according to the value in the third column. Now there are a few issues with this plot. First of all, why are the x range and the y range from -20 to +120? And I'm not entirely sure, but I think this is because it places the pixel with its center at the specified coordinates. So this bottom left pixel is placed with its center at coordinates 0, 0. What that means is that half of that pixel extends into the negative numbers. So by cutting the plot at 0, we're technically cutting off half of all these pixels here. So that means we would be losing information of some sort. But since it would look much better, we're still going to set our x range from 0 to 100 and set our y range from 0 to 100. And as you can see, our image now fills up the plot. Another big issue is that although both the x and the y coordinates run from 0 to 100, this plot isn't square. So each pixel isn't even a square. That's a big problem, but we can easily fix this by set size ratio 1, which sets the ratio between the x and the y coordinates at 1. And this makes our plot a square. By the way, if this plot command gives you an error, something like you didn't specify the dimensions of your image, although they are clearly specified by the coordinates in your data file, that's because you don't have the newest version of gnuplot. So this produced an error in earlier versions, but that was fixed. and you can just install the newest version and everything should work out. As you can see, we're losing the ticks at our x and y axis, since these pixels are drawn on top of everything else. But what we might do is we might set ticks out, and it produces these little ticks outside of the plot. In that case, I would go set ticks no mirror though, which looks a little cleaner since we don't have the ticks at the upper and right hand side. Now, as I said, these pixels are colored in according to the value in the third column of our data set, and the range is chosen by the minimum and maximum value. So the minimum value in our data set is -1000 and the maximum value is 1000. So that's the range that gnuplot chooses to color in from black to yellow and all colors in between. Sometimes that's not really meaningful. Maybe you have some really high values, some extremely low values, but the interesting range is somewhere in between, and you actually just want to highlight the dynamics in between. So what you can do is set CB range and maybe go from -500 to 500. And what it does is it changes this range to -500 to 500. So now -500 corresponds to pitch black and 500 corresponds to bright yellow. And every number that is above 500 is of course also yellow, and every number that's below -500 is going to be black. So this is why these regions here appear as yellow and black blobs, because there are numbers at and above 500. But if large portions of your image contain values between -500 and 500, and you want to get more variety of colors in this range, it can sometimes be meaningful to change up that range. By unset CB range, I can just return to -1000 to +1000. Now, in the example at the beginning of the video, I had different colors, and there are really a lot of ways to customize the colors of these kinds of plots. And I'll probably go over that in a separate video, but what I want to show you here is this official gnuplot demo script, and I'll leave a link to that in the description, where you can see different color options. So this is the default option that we produced in our plot, but there are a number of different other interesting options. I kind of like this rainbow version for everything that's related to heat, so you can have blue is cold and red is hot, or everything that's related to plus and minus, like electric potential, for example. And if you go to the right section here, you can see the commands to set your color range to these options. They're always set by the command set palette, and most of the time followed by RGB and 3 numbers. And again, I'm probably going to explain this in more detail in another video, but for now let's just say that depending on these 3 numbers, we get these different kinds of color gradients. And we see that this rainbow is associated with 33, 13, and 10. So let's type that in, set palette RGB 33, 13, and 10. And you see we applied that color scheme to our plot. Now let's bring the vector field in. So after my plot command, I simply type a comma, the same data file once more, as if I was just entering another plot command, and then I have to use the using command this time. And the first entry is just going to be the x coordinate, the second entry is just going to be the y coordinate, as always. And now I have to specify the data column in which the x component and the data column in which the y component of the vector field is stored. In our case, that's the 4th and 5th column. You could pass a 5th value to this vector field, and that would then correspond to the color of the vectors. So you can color them in according to some data value, just as we colored in our pixels. We're not going to do that though. We're going to write with vectors, and then I can specify the color of the vectors as a line color. So I'm going to go with -1, which should be black, and I can write filled, which should fill the heads of the vectors, the heads of the tiny arrows that are the vectors. Now I hit enter, and as you can see, this is a big mess. And now this could be a mess for 2 reasons. Either our vectors are way too large, or there are way too many vectors. So what we can do is we can type every 5 so as not to plot every vector, but just every fifth vector. And as you can see, this does plot every fifth vector in the sense that it just plots every fifth row, which is almost what we want. And if we type every 5 colon 5, so it will now only plot every fifth row and every fifth column, which is already much better. Now as you can see, the vectors are still way too large, so what we can do is we can do some calculations with the vector components by putting them in brackets and writing $4 divided by 8 maybe, and going $5 divided by 8, which will divide these vector components by 8 and scale down the vectors by that factor. Now that's already quite good. I want to quickly include the command noTitle so that we don't get this ugly title on top here, and I'm quite liking this already. If I were to include this in some lab report or whatever, I would probably cut out the values that are exactly on the capacitor plate, so especially this, and this vector, because they're not very pretty and they're not even that meaningful. But apart from that, I kind of like how this looks, as you can now clearly see the direction and strength of the electric field. It points from one plate of the capacitor to the other. Now in these kinds of plots, the length of the vectors that corresponds to their magnitude usually conveys a lot of information, and it's certainly meaningful that some of these vectors are longer than others. What you can and possibly might want to do is have each of these vectors be the same length. And a way to implement this is just divide each vector component by the absolute value of that vector. So we have $4 divided by square root of, then we have to put $4 to the power of 2 plus $5 to the power of 2, and the same thing for the y component. And this gives all vectors the same length. Now I would scale up that length a bit. Let's just include maybe a factor of 5 in front of these. Now each vector has the same length, and while this comes at a loss of information, in some cases this might be the only meaningful way to plot your data. These plots need to be labeled anyway, so always include some labeling where you say this is my vector field, or this is just the direction of my vector field represented by vectors of unit length or something. So that's all I have for today. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and see you next time. Take care.